Kyle Busch is leaving Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota after 15 years, 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships, and 56 wins as of this recording. What does this mean for Tyler Reddick, Kyle Busch Motorsports, and the rest of the garage? Today we break down this huge silly season bomb that just got dropped on the NASCAR world on Shifting Gears. I'm Alan Bailey, and before we get started, make sure you smash that subscribe button to stay up to date on the latest videos, and log on to AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest motorsports news and the latest on Kyle Busch to RCR. Kyle Busch will join Richard Childress Racing in 2023, according to Jordan Bianchi at The Athletic and multiple other sources and media outlets. Is he right? A lot of people are going off of Bianchi's word, and yes. Honestly, Bianchi is a very, very good reporter who works for The Athlete, and I think he's right. He wouldn't go to press with this unless he was 110% certain, and I think he's 110% certain. We've been hearing for weeks that RCR was in negotiations with Kyle Busch. Last week we heard that RCR and the 8 car was more than likely where he was going to end up, which honestly at the time felt very odd, felt very strange, because I honestly thought Carluck Racing was where he was going to end up in the 16 car. Not only do they have the money, but it's a younger organization that was offering Kyle partial ownership, as well as expanding his truck and Xfinity programs as well. So it's a little strange that Kyle is going to RCR on paper, but we're going to get into it. How did we get here exactly? Mars Incorporated, who has been sponsoring Joe Gibbs Racing since 2008 with Kyle Busch, really is leaving at the end of the season. They announced it at the end of 2021 that they were leaving NASCAR overall, and therefore leaving Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing. So Joe Gibbs Racing started a sponsor search that ultimately fell through. They started talking to a number of different sponsors, and over the summer, the deal fell through, basically, with the big sponsor Oracle that was going to pick up the bill for most of Kyle Busch's season. When that happened, it set in place a series of events that led to Kyle Busch leaving for RCR. And to be clear, when you're signing a multi-million-dollar sponsor to be on Kyle Busch's car or anybody else's car within NASCAR, within motorsports, it's not a let's talk over the course of the next month and get this deal done scenario. The process to sign a sponsor for multiple seasons with multiple million-dollar contracts on the line takes at least 12 months from initial meeting to signing the paperwork and getting the deal done. Essentially, Toyota, Joe Gibbs Racing ran out of time, and I think once the Oracle deal fell through, they looked at Ty Gibbs in the Xfinity series and went, we don't really need that Kyle Busch. He's kind of a jerk, and we'd rather keep it in the family with this young kid. And that's essentially what happened. After Oracle fell through, they started talking to some other sponsors, but it was clear Kyle wasn't happy and Kyle wanted to move on, and his attitude throughout the entire thing, including this wall ride at Nashville, was just evident that Kyle didn't want to be in a Toyota, and they were at a point where they didn't want to work with a jerk. They'd rather work with family, in this case Ty Gibbs. More than likely, Gibbs is moving over to the 18 car. Nothing is official, but Ty Gibbs was put into the number 45 car for a reason over John Hunter Nemechek. We'll get into that in a second, but the big question, what does this mean for Tyler Reddick? Is Reddick out of the 8 car for 2023? Maybe. Jordan Bianchi is reporting that Kyle Busch will be in a 3rd RCR car, but sponsorship hasn't been locked up for a 3rd RCR car, which really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would RCR go out and spend $20+ million to secure a charter? Not sponsorship, but just the charter for a 3rd car, and then on top of that, go out and try to find another $20 million sponsor for Kyle Busch. Honestly, the timeline doesn't make sense. If RCR has been in negotiation for 6 months, he realistically still has another 6 months to negotiate this sponsor to be on the car for Daytona. And I just don't see that happening. There were multiple reports from within RCR that when Tyler Reddick announced he was leaving the team after the 2023 season for 2311 in 2024, Richard Childress wanted him out. He wanted to fire Tyler Reddick on the spot and get him out of that 8 car ASAP. And honestly, I think that still tracks here because, frankly, Tyler Reddick is a great driver, but Kyle Busch has 2 championships, and he's kind of a franchise driver. I would put Kyle Busch in the 8 car over Tyler Reddick today if I were RCR. Is that what's going to happen? More than likely, yes, because it might actually be significantly cheaper for Richard Childress to simply pay out Tyler Reddick for the remainder of his contract one season, the 2023 season, and then put Kyle Busch in the 8 car. The 8 car essentially already has sponsorship. That is already locked in. The question is can you persuade those sponsors to basically get a talent upgrade with Kyle Busch? I think yes. Does this mean that those sponsors are going to have to pay a little bit more money? Maybe not. I don't know what the contract situation with those sponsors look like. Only RCR and the sponsors know that. But I got to imagine that essentially you can just shift Kyle Busch into the 8 car more or less with those current sponsors that Tyler Reddick had in 2022. And how much is Tyler Reddick's contract really? A couple $1 million at the most? I don't know the specifics of Tyler Reddick's contract, but I have to imagine that Tyler Reddick is not making more than $20 million racing in the 8 car in 2023. It makes more sense from a financial standpoint for Richard Childress and Richard Childress Racing to essentially pay out Tyler Reddick for the 2023 season so that they can make room for Kyle Busch to take over the 8 car. I think that that's the more than likely option, but another option is, can Chevy pick up the bill for some of 2023, if not all of it? Chevy is willing to spend money in NASCAR. They've had a phenomenal relationship with Richard Childress Racing over the course of the last 40 plus years. I honestly think that Chevy is going to step up in some capacity. Are they willing to spend $20 million on a charter for Kyle Busch to slip into an RCR Chevy? Maybe. Maybe Chevy is willing to blow $20 to $25 million on a charter. Maybe they're willing to spend another $20 to $25 million to get a third car at RCR going. What could essentially be Kyle Busch driving the number 30 Chevrolet sponsored car in 2023. But honestly, I don't see Chevy dropping that kind of money on a single driver. And Chevy's got to be very excited because now Kyle Busch is moving back to Chevy. Kyle Busch was with Hendrick Motorsports and Chevrolet from 2004 to 2007, moved into the Cup Series full-time in 2005, won his first race in 2005 and won multiple races, but his attitude was a problem. Rick Hendrick did not like Kyle Busch's attitude. He was young, he was a punk, and he was a jerk, straight up. But he was also single. He didn't have a family like he does now. And at the time, Rick Hendrick didn't mind losing Busch. He signed Dale Earnhardt Jr. to replace him. And then in 2008, Kyle Busch went out there and won 8 races in the Cup Series with Gibbs and Toyota. It was a huge, huge loss for Chevrolet and Rick Hendrick at the time. But more specifically, this is a massive loss for Joe Gibbs Racing, but more specifically, Toyota. Although as a company, Toyota is as big as Chevrolet in the global market, Toyota is not that big in NASCAR. Look at it. There's essentially 2 Toyota teams, arguably 1.5 depending on how you look at 2311 and what they do. And without Gibbs, Toyota doesn't exist in the Cup Series, virtually. Chevrolet, on the other hand, has multiple powerhouse Chevy teams. But Toyota essentially just has one. And arguably they're losing the biggest driver in their fleet, who has been the face of Toyota for the last 15 plus years. And listen, Toyota proved that they essentially don't care about Kyle Busch, or essentially that they don't have the money. Because if Toyota really wanted to keep Kyle Busch in the number 18 Toyota, guess what? They would have written him a check by now. Toyota has enough money in one of their many glove compartments to essentially pay Kyle Busch's salary. They could have written him a $30 million check today if they really wanted to, but they didn't. A couple of weeks back, the TRD president came out saying, "Oh, we're doing all we can to keep Kyle Busch in our stable." No, you're not. That was a bold-faced lie. And kudos to the reporters at the track who actually called him out to his face on that. And you could tell by the look on his face, he knew he was in it. Yeah, TRD lied. They weren't doing everything that they could to retain Kyle Busch. Heck, if Toyota really wanted to look really good here, they would have announced weeks ago that Kyle Busch was leaving Joe Gibbs Racing and Toyota. Instead, we're getting an announcement this Tuesday from RCR that he's announcing. It's just a bad look for Toyota and Gibbs. It makes them look weak. It makes them look underfunded, which they are, and now they're going to lose not only their powerhouse driver, but they're going to lose a massive Truck Series program that has essentially been their feeder system for the Xfinity and Cup Series for years. Essentially, Joe Gibbs Racing is owned by Toyota, and Toyota simply doesn't want to put the money into NASCAR. Should they put more money into NASCAR? Probably at this point, but the fact of the matter is, Toyota's cheap. What was the overall plan for Toyota? Well, the plan initially was for Ty Gibbs to take over the 19 car after the 2023 season. But now, more than likely, Ty Gibbs is going to be taking over the 18 in 2023. We've talked about it in multiple videos. You can go check them out on the channel if you want. But it's well established that when Kurt Busch got into the crash at Pocono during qualifying and was out essentially for the rest of the 2022 season, instead of calling John Hunter Nemechek, who arguably has been the guy that is getting groomed at Toyota and Kyle Busch Motorsports for the last few years to eventually jump back up into the Cup Series, who was at the racetrack at Pocono with his gear, who had his seat at the racetrack. Instead, they called Ty Gibbs, who was already home, who didn't have any of his equipment or anything ready to go, and essentially flew him in the middle of the night back out to Pocono to jump into that 45 car on extremely short notice. Heck, they even threw one of Kurt Busch's old fire suits on him that was clearly way too big for the kid. That right there tells me that Ty Gibbs moving to the 18 car was always the plan. It was always the main idea. And it also tells me that Toyota is no longer impressed with John Hunter Nemechek. Now, some have said that Tyler Reddick could move to the 18 car in the Cup Series for a single season before moving to 2311 in 2024. Denny Hamlin came out this week, a few days ago actually, saying that Kurt Busch is in the 45 car in 2023 if he wants it, and that 2311 could add a third car for 2024. Denny Hamlin is still working on a ride for Tyler Reddick. He admitted himself on multiple platforms that he signed Tyler Reddick without having a full-fledged plan or sponsor for him. But what happens to Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Truck Series? Obviously, they need to move to Chevrolet. Some people have said, well, why can't Kyle Busch just stay Toyota? If I'm Chevrolet and I'm paying to have Kyle Busch in one of my cars, I'm going to be extremely frustrated, not only if he drives a Toyota, but worse, if he wins in a Toyota. No. And for Kyle Busch Motorsports, it's going to be a massive company restructuring. A lot of people just said, oh, just cut the bodies off and put the new Chevy body on. Yes, that is true. That is one of the steps that needs to happen. But think about it. From a technical standpoint, a lot of the people in the Kyle Busch Motorsports building are Toyota people, meaning that they have contracts with Toyota. We have no idea who within Kyle Busch Motorsports has contracts with Toyota and legally needs to stay under the Toyota banner. We know that the drivers more than likely are under contract with Toyota, meaning that John Hunter Nemechek in the 4, Chandler Smith in the 18 could be leaving Kyle Busch Motorsports at the end of the 2022 season. Heck, even John Hunter Nemechek, when he won the truck race at Kansas this weekend, in the post-race was emotional, saying it was a very difficult week for him. He would not elaborate if there was something personal going on, but everyone at the time, including me on Twitter, speculated that John Hunter Nemechek was told this week that he doesn't have a ride for 2023. Nothing official yet. We'll find out Kyle Busch Motorsports details in the weeks to come. I'm sure they're still trying to get those ducks in a line. But what does happen to that truck team realistically? Well, RCR sponsors could end up picking up a few races in the Truck Series, but more than likely not a full season. They have 3 trucks with the 4, the 18, and the 51. Maybe they can find sponsors for that Truck Series program, but Chevy is going to have to step up and fill in the gaps. It all depends on sponsor dollars, and a lot of those sponsors at Kyle Busch Motorsports right now are actually tied in to programs at Gibbs, meaning they're losing a majority of their sponsor dollars with this move to Chevy for Kyle Busch. Overall, Kyle Busch has been in talks with Colic Racing in the 16, RCR in the 8, and Stewart Haas in the 41. These are all true. At the time of past videos, we knew that that's what was happening. Those conversations were happening, but it appears that Kyle Busch signed that deal this week. Even Dale Earnhardt Jr. was trolling over on Twitter this week that this was happening. Kyle Busch coming over to RCR could definitely be the shot in the arm that RCR needs in order to turn that program around and be serious championship contenders again. We're getting an official announcement from Richard Childress Racing and Kyle Busch this coming Tuesday. No comment from anyone as of this recording, but it's only Saturday afternoon. The news broke minutes ago, so we could get some comments within the next few days from either Busch, RCR, or Gibbs. So keep an eye on AmericanRacingNetwork.com for the latest on this developing story, but I want to hear what you think. What do you think about Kyle Busch moving over to RCR? Do you think he's going to a third car in the Cup Series? Do you think he's going into the 8 car? And what becomes of the 18 car and Tyler Reddick next season? Let me know in the comments down below, and hit that subscribe button and like button to help support the channel. And you can also follow me on my social media accounts at HeyAlanBailey. Thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.